Beep. Okay, lesson 5. Now we're talking about rotations. So we are still talking about rigid transformations. We have a translation, which if we're translating a line, it's parallel or it's the same line.
Teachers, please excuse
Hold on, teachers, please excuse Miss Tomlins. Thanks, Miss Tomlin, for screwing up my video. Oh my goodness, why is this crooked? How can I, which way do I need to turn it? That way, okay, now it's not crooked. So rigid transformations, we've talked about translations, again, the slides. We've talked about reflections, which have a line of reflection or a line of symmetry. So if I'm on this side here, I'm on this side here, okay? Now we're talking about rotations, which rotate, we're turning. So here's the key thing. They talk about positive and negatives. This is going to be the only time that I differ a little bit from Engage New York. We talk about clockwise and counterclockwise. I want you to think clockwise. Here's my parenthesis. Actually, let's put brackets so it's not as confusing. Clockwise is abbreviated as CW. Counterclockwise is abbreviated as CCW. Clockwise is negative. Counterclockwise is positive. Now listen, you cannot have positive and negative degrees. Engage New York talks about it, but do not worry about it. Just know counterclockwise is positive, clockwise is negative, and think about a clock. So if you need to, 12, 3, 6, 9. This direction is clockwise. If we go this way, let's do it with a different color. If I go to the left, it's counterclockwise. Okay? So, rotation. It says, let there be a rotation of d degrees around the center. Let P be a point other than O. Select D so that D is greater than or equal to 0. Find P prime. So, you're like, Mr. H, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I know. We've got our point. This is the center of rotation. That's the axis of rotation. This is P. But we know that when we rotate it, it's going to be P prime. So, my question is, which direction, if D has to be greater than or equal to 0, that means D is positive. Which way do we want to rotate it? Do we want to turn this counterclockwise or clockwise? Well, counterclockwise is positive. So if I want to rotate this however many degrees, I'm going to take this, keep the origin there, and then I rotate it. This is rotated. Make sure you show the direction, and I'm going to make a wild guess and say this is about 20 degrees. Okay, so I've now rotated that counterclockwise 20 degrees. And that is a positive rotation. Because anytime that we turn it left, it is positive. Okay. Get tape stuck on my board. Let's try another one. So I'm going to try to leave this up there. We're going to see what happens. Where's my keyboard? Over here. Okay. Let there be a rotation of d degrees around center 0. Let P be a point other than 0 so that D is less than 0. If it's less than 0, that means it's a negative number. So once again, we get our transparency paper. Let go, let go, let go. Yay. Perfect. There's my transparency. I need to have 0 or O. I need to have what's going to be P prime. If it needs to be a negative, in this case we are rotating it, clockwise. So if this is up at around 11:55, let's take it to 3. So there's 3. So I need to show which way it, notice that it rotated around O still. It's rotating this direction. You have to show the direction if it's talking about positive or negative. So if it's talking about positive or negatives, you need to show the direction, which is going to the right. We're going to call this 80 degrees. Okay? So if I rotate this clockwise, the rotation is negative. If I rotate it counterclockwise, the rotation is positive. We're rotating it around whichever point they tell us to. Okay, so which direction did the point P rotate when it was positive? Well, when it's positive, it's rotating counterclockwise. So direction, it rotates to the left. Which means, which direction did the point rotate when it was negative? Well, it rotated to the right. Another way that you could call this was counterclockwise or clockwise. Okay? Positive, counterclockwise. Negative, clockwise. Let's see what's going on here. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Oh boy, there we go. Okay. Okay, I'm going to erase all this now. Let L be a line. Ray AB, CD be a segment, angle EFG as shown. Let there be a rotation of D degrees. Find all the images of all figures when D is greater than or equal to 0. So, you're going to do this with your patty paper. I'm going to show you which directions they're rotating. This, if it's greater than 0, all of these are moving the same distance to the left. Listen again. They all move the same distance to the left. If D is greater than 0, if the degrees is positive, we rotate to the left. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay? You rotate it to the left. So if I had paper, I would rotate them the same exact distance. The shapes would not change. And you might say, why, Mr. H? Why aren't the shapes going to change? Because rotations are rigid transformations. Rigid meaning the size and shape do not change. Okay. Let segment AB be a segment of length 4 units and angle CDE be an angle of size 45. What I'd like you to do, you're doing this one on your own, is you are doing 6, A, B, and that's it. Do 6, A, and B on your own. Okay? You're bringing that in for me. Use your patty paper. So, let's talk about it. Rotations have a positive degrees are counterclockwise, negative degrees are clockwise. A rotation keeps it the same, line to line, ray to ray, angle to angle, segment to segment. Lengths are going to be the same, angles are going to be the same, because it's rigid. It does not change the shape or the size. This is just talking about rotations in counterclockwise versus clockwise. So we've now talked about all three rigid transformations. We've talked about all three of them. We've talked about translations, which changes, let me try this again. Translation is a slide. We've talked about reflection, which changes the orientation of it. Here's my line of reflection, over here. We've talked about rotations. This was the last lesson before your quiz. So you need to make sure that you review lessons 1 through 5. Can't wait to see you guys.